Alright lads, so today over on Bleach Ssr Resonant, we are going to be getting a pretty big update tomorrow, the start of the Chinese Lunar New Year celebration, and one of the cool things that we are going to be getting is a free Ssr Selector of your choice, specifically the 6 starting standard Ssr characters: Byakuya, Yoruichi, Kaname, Kisuke, Ikkaku, and also Sajin. You get to pick the character of your choice, and with that, you might be now wondering what character should you be picking up in case you are missing a certain character, or assuming you have access to all 6 SSRs, which one should you be picking up with the idea of getting a good valued duplicate through the boundary system. So first and foremost, let's talk about the character you should be getting if for some reason you do not have him. Kisuke right now is the best support in the game that you can literally use in every single team. As a universal support, he has insane value, and honestly I think many people will agree is one of the best characters in the game. Easily the best support character in the game. But why exactly is that? Well, that comes from his core passive effect, where every time you use an ultimate, a technique, or a counter attack, you do gain 1 stack of Reishi analysis, and that does give 10% attack increase to the entire team for 25 seconds. With the weapon stamp, that can go up to 6 stacks, so a 60% attack boost. And with his stamp set, you can give your team a 70% attack boost. If that wasn't all, his ultimate also does increase crit damage by a certain percentage based on this character's crit damage increase. So it's the best of both worlds, a attack increase, a crit damage increase. You can't go wrong with Kisuke. If for some reason you do not have him, I definitely recommend picking him up. But if you do have Kisuke, and assuming you have access to every other character in the selection, should you be picking up Kisuke again? Well, the most important duplicate I would recommend, if you can do it, let's say you already have access to a B1 Kisuke, definitely pick up his second copy, as it does give him a pretty big damage increase specifically for your team. So with his second boundary, enemies near the portable Gigai, that is technique by the way, receive 15% more damage for 6 seconds. When taking explosion damage, so when it explodes, this 6 second 15% damage increase resets and you get another 6 seconds, which is really good. So potentially upwards to 12 seconds of a 15% damage increase. You can never go wrong with that. And since this character is used in every team, this might be the most valued boundary you can get in this entire selection, assuming again you have access to every single character. If you do have a B1 Kisuke, definitely recommend getting the B2, because again, you're going to use him in every single team. Every character is going to take advantage of that. Other than that, his extra duplicates aren't really that great. His final one only increases his damage output, but I guess if you are working with a very fast team, his B4 doesn't sound like a bad idea, as it does let you use his ultimate 5 seconds faster. The character gains a lot of ultimate energy recharge super fast with his attacks, so those 5 seconds saved does actually save a lot of time and makes the rotations a lot faster if you are using a fast rotation team. But again, most important one is going to be the B2. What is then going to be the next best thing to pick up? Well, in my opinion, it's going to be Sergeant B1, his first boundary ascension, especially with the idea that you might be summoned for Grimmjow in 3 weeks' time if he is the next character, as Grimmjow is going to be a strike full assault unit. With Grimmjow, likely you are going to be using Sergeant, as he is the team's go-to tactic unit. Although, to be fair, Sergeant might be replaced with Nelliel if Nelliel makes Grimmjow better, as Grimmjow right now is leaked to be a character that can inflict element damage, for example. So you might not even need Sergeant if Nelliel does pair well with Grimmjow, but let's say you're skipping Nelliel and you already have access to a B2 Kisuke. Well, I would still say Sergeant's B1 is really worth picking up, because personally, that's what I'm doing. I already have access to a B2 Kisuke, so I will be getting a B1 Sergeant with the idea to use him in my strike-focused team. And that's because when Sergeant does use his technique, which does provide a shield for the characters in the team, that shielded character will gain a 40% crit damage increase. You can't go wrong with that, especially with the idea that his skill, specifically his second passive, does give at least a 15% crit rate increase when that character is shielded. So if you have the second passive unlocked, if you have the B1, that character is getting some protection through the shield itself, a 50% crit rate increase and a 40% crit damage increase. Really good to have. What you're going to notice in the character you want to pick here is ones that support and make other characters better, because naturally every character here, even Kisuke in the future, is going to get outclassed by new limited characters. We're already kind of seeing that with, Ikkaku. Ginstra's better. We're potentially seeing that next week, where Kaname is a really good character, but Nelliel might be better. So to get the most value out of this selection, you want to pick characters and boundaries that increase your main character's damage output. Kisuke's B2, Sergeant's B1. And honestly, those are the two most important ones. After that, honestly, you can pick any character you want. Whether that's a character you're missing, just to complete the collection, whether that's to make your favorite character better. Like, for example, Yoruichi, right? She's a popular character. We do know, though, that she is going to get outclassed likely by Grimmjow in 4 weeks' time when he does release, if he is next. Grimmjow is going to fulfill the same role as Yoruichi, a strike full assault character. So if you do get Yoruichi's boundary increase now, it might not really amount to much in a month's time when Grimmjow does release. If you are summoning for Grimmjow, if you aren't summoning for Grimmjow, then getting duplicates of Yoruichi isn't a bad idea, especially if you like her gameplay. Remember, every character can work right, for the most part, not in the late game hard content like Trial Tower, for example. But getting Yoruichi dupes, if you are a fan of her, isn't a bad idea. It does make it a better character, especially if you can get that final duplicate, as it does reduce the cooldown for her perfect dodge, which is a big part about this character's gameplay, and does give her more crit damage. But that's only assuming you have access to a B5, Yoruichi, right? When it comes to Byakuya, if you wanted to get a duplicate of him, his duplicates just overall just increase his damage output, right? Which isn't like the main part about this character. But I would say the best duplicate for Byakuya is going to be his B1 and also B6. So his B1 in particular does immediately give him 30% spiritual pressure upon activating the Bankai. And that does solve a problem with this character's rotation when you're using him being relatively slow. Because when you activate your Bankai, you have to use your technique 3 times, then do a full combo of his basic attack to get the full capacity of his special attack. With his first boundary, you only have to use his technique 3 times and you get to instantly get the full spiritual pressure attack off. So that does make his rotation a little bit faster when in Bankai, and then same with this one, it does make it so you consume less spiritual pressure, so the attack itself does last longer. So I guess if you have access to a B2 Kisuke, a B1 Sergeant, and every other character in the selection, getting a B1 Byakuya isn't a bad idea. Kaname, if you are skipping Neliel, is going to be a good character to get dupes of. Over his duplicates do just increase his damage output. He doesn't really gain any quality of life per se, besides just getting more damage, but his final duplicate is really good as it does let him use his battlefield skill 2 times after using his ultimate, so overall again more damage output. And then for Ikaku, I don't think his duplicates are anything crazy, again just increasing his damage output, not bad by any means, but this character has been outclassed by a character like Gin, so if you have Gin, you don't even need Ikaku. And that's exactly what I'm doing, right? My account right now does not have Ikaku, so I want to pick Ikaku for the selection aspect, but I do want to use Sergeant with Grimmjow in the future. I do have a B2 Kisuke, so I might as well get that B1 Sergeant in case the crit damage and crit rate does come in handy. At the same time though, we're only 3 months into the game, and granted Chinese Lunar New Year is a big deal in China, so this might be a rare occasion, but since we've gotten it after 3 months, I wouldn't be surprised if this selection is a common occurrence for big events. Maybe we'll see it again in 3 months' time for the half-year celebration. We're likely going to see it again for the 1st anniversary. So maybe you don't have to be too picky or strict on what character to pick. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to get these characters in the future, and also duplicates. So it's not a big deal if you go for your favorite. You don't need to maximize everything, but again, my personal 2 recommendations is B2 Kisuke, B1 Sergeant. After that, honestly, you can pick any other character. So again, in the comments below, let me know what character you're picking up. I'm curious to know. I'm picking up Sergeant, but this is a really cool system. Would love to see it more often. W Dev Team, W Soul Resonance. Hope you liked and enjoyed the video. See you guys next time. Take care and peace.